Welcome back for another deep dive, and this one is, well, it's pretty dark. It's going to get dark. We're going deep into the story of Tamara Samsonova.
The Granny Ripper, right.
Yeah, the Granny Ripper of St. Petersburg, Russia. And this one comes with some seriously disturbing details, especially from after she was arrested back in 2015.
Yeah, the stuff you sent over, that Bailey Sarian YouTube video, it's heavy. All the stuff she allegedly did. I mean, if you believe the diaries and what the police found, it's a wild story.
It really is. So that's our mission today. We're going to try and understand what happened based on what's in that video, going through the main events and all the crazy details.
That's good.
Okay, so first off, we have Tamara Samsonova. And what's so crazy is she just seemed like this harmless old lady. Yeah, like polite, gentle,
Totally.
Then boom, 2015, police are like, wait a minute, this woman's a serial killer. The killer granny. And it all comes out because they found these diary pages. It's like, whoa, what a huge difference. Like, how can you even tell?
It's a total 180. The transcript says she was born in 1947 in this little government town, Okur, in Russia. I look it up. It's central Russia. And back then, it was just a small town, like 20,000 people or so.
Huh. So, small town beginnings. Not much about her early life in there, right?
Not really, no.
Okay, but she ends up going to Moscow, to Moscow State Linguistic University. So she's clearly bright, going for languages, probably had big dreams, maybe wanted to see the world.
Could be. And then after that, she moves to Leningrad, well, St. Petersburg now, in the early 70s. That was a big move, from a small town to a city with almost 4 million people.
Huge change. That's where she meets her husband, Alexei, and they settle down.
Right, in Kupchino. They lived in one of those panel houses, the kind they built all over the Soviet Union after World War II.
Yeah. Affordable housing, lots of people living there, maybe not so much privacy.
Exactly. So she becomes a travel agent, putting those language skills to good use. But then, get this, she starts working at the Grand Hotel Europe. This is a super fancy hotel, the kind that attracts foreign visitors and all that. She worked there for 16 years. Can you imagine?
Wow, a fancy hotel job for 16 years sounds like a pretty decent, stable life. But then things get weird. Right after she retires, her husband disappears.
Gone just like that. Poof.
And they were married for 30 years at that point.
Yeah.
So naturally, she reports him missing. But there's this one detail that really makes you suspicious.
What's that?
She told the police she thought he ran off with another woman. Like, just up and left me after 3 decades.
Convenient.
Right. Almost too convenient. You have to wonder if that made the police less likely to, really dig into it.
Makes sense. So Alexei's gone, and according to the transcript, Samsonova starts renting out a spare room in her apartment.
Trying to make some extra cash, I guess.
Seems like it. But here's the thing. She kept having issues with roommates. Neighbors would hear all this crazy stuff, like loud banging on the radiator, yelling, all sorts of commotion coming from her place.
So people wouldn't stay very long.
Apparently not. It just sounds like a really unstable living situation.
And all this time, she's keeping these diaries.
Right, her diaries.
In Russian, English, and sometimes even German. Talk about a polyglot, right? And she wrote about everything, normal stuff like how well she slept, what meds she took.
Right, the mundane daily things.
But then she'd also go off about songwriting and music, and then this really creepy stuff, black magic and astrology. It's like, what was going on in her head?
A strange mix of interests.
Definitely strange.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 2014, Samsonova decides to renovate her apartment. And that's when she meets this 79-year-old woman named Valentina Nikolaevna.
Valentina needed help around the house with chores and stuff, and Samsonova, who was 68 at the time, offered to move in and help out while her own place was being renovated.
On paper, it sounds like it could have worked out right, helping each other out.
Yeah.
The transcript even says that Samsonova seemed to like living there, but the feeling wasn't mutual.
No. Valentina thought Samsonova wasn't pulling her weight with the chores and saw her more as a squatter, so she asked her to leave.
And Samsonova was like, nope, I'm staying.
Pretty much, and that seems to be what set things off. According to the transcript, they got into this fight in July 2015 over something totally normal, just dirty dishes.
Really? Dishes?
Yep. And after that fight, Samsonova decided she was going to get rid of Valentina. But here's the thing that's really scary. This wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment thing. It was planned.
Oh, no.
She went to another town, to a pharmacy, and got a hold of 50 pills of phenazepam. That's a prescription drug, like Xanax, for insomnia and anxiety. Strong stuff.
50 pills, that's a lot.
Way too many. Then she goes back to Valentina's and makes her this Olivier salad.
The classic Russian salad, the one with the peas and potatoes.
Yeah, that one, her favorite. And she put all 50 pills in it.
Oh, my God.
I know. So she gives Valentina this drug salad, goes to bed, and around 2 in the morning, she finds Valentina dead on the kitchen floor.
This is just awful.
It gets worse. She says Valentina was too heavy to move to the bathroom, so she dismembered her right there in the kitchen.
What?
Yeah.
No, I can't even.
It's horrific. The transcript describes it so casually, it's chilling, like it's just a normal thing to do.
I can't believe this. So then what did she do with the body?
She wrapped the body parts in pieces of a shower curtain, put them in plastic bags, and then took them to a nearby pond. She dumped them in the pond.
Just like that.
Not just once either. Security cameras caught her going back and forth 7 different times, 7 trips to dump those bags in the pond.
So methodical, so calculated. It's just horrifying.
Absolutely. And 3 days later, a couple walking their dog finds a torso. No head, no limbs, just the torso, in a bag that washed ashore from that pond.
Oh, God.
And here's another thing. The police had gotten a call that very night. Someone saw her dropping bags in the pond.
Wow. It was like everything started unraveling immediately.
It did. Plus, a social worker had tried to check on Valentina at home, but Samsonova wouldn't let her in.
So the police are talking to neighbors, and no one's seen Valentina in days. And then, boom, they identify the body parts. It all points back to her apartment.
Exactly. And when the police go to investigate, Samsonova just opens the door, invites them in.
What? She just let them in?
Yeah. And of course, they find blood in the kitchen, in the bathroom, a ripped shower curtain.
And she just breaks down and confesses.
Yep. Confesses to killing Valentina. Just like that.
But that wasn't even the worst part. Because after they arrest her, they find her diary at Valentina's place.
Right, the diary. And that's when things get really crazy. It wasn't just Valentina. She had written about killing other people, too.
Oh, no. Other victims?
Several, allegedly. Former roommates, specifically. One was named Volodya. She wrote about dismembering him in the bathroom, putting the body parts in bags, and scattering them around the district.
This is just beyond belief.
There's more. She also wrote about killing this 44-year-old guy, Sergei Bavin, after they had an argument. Same thing, dismemberment, bags, dumping the body.
It's like she had this routine, this horrible, twisted routine.
It's incredibly disturbing. And what's even creepier is that her diaries seem to match up with some unsolved cases. Like back in 2003, they found a body, no head, no arms, no legs, on the same street she mentioned in her diary. They never solved it back then.
But now?
Now it looks like it might have been her. And she even described Sergei's tattoos in the diary. And guess what? They found his business card and traces of his blood in her apartment after she was arrested.
The details.
Yeah.
They all just lined up. It's terrifying.
Totally. But there's also this weird thing in the diary where she talks about loving Valentina, even though she killed her.
Love. How can you even...
It's really messed up. And then there are these entries about cannibalism. She wrote about cutting out and eating lungs, legs, pieces of the head. I mean, it's just, I don't even know what to say.
I feel sick just thinking about it. Did the police ever, find any proof of that?
Not really. The transcript mentions they couldn't officially confirm the cannibalism because there wasn't any physical evidence. They kind of joked darkly that she ate the evidence.
God.
Yeah.
It's too much. But she did admit to the police that her diary entries were true, right?
That's what the transcript says, yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about her arrest and the court appearances. They arrested her on July 29th, 2015, and took her to this court, the Franczynski District Court in St. Petersburg. And they had her in a cage in the courtroom.
Yeah, it was all over the news. She even told the reporters there that she knew this day would come. She said it was a disgrace for the city.
But then she also claimed that a maniac upstairs was making her kill people.
Yeah.
Like she was hearing voices.
Could be. And her behavior in court was all over the place. She was hiding from cameras, then crying, then sitting there all proud, even flirting with the court and the media, blowing kisses and fixing her hair. And then she'd act totally confused.
Like she was putting on a show.
Right. It makes you wonder, was she really mentally ill or was she just trying to manipulate everyone?
And then she tells the judge that all the murders were planned, that she'd been preparing for this for 10 years, and that killing Valentina was her way of closing the chapter. But that doesn't fit with her acting all scared and confused, does it?
Not really. It's like she was contradicting herself at every turn. And get this, she told the judge she wanted to be famous as a serial killer. And when they said they were keeping her in jail, she smiled and clapped.
It's insane. You can't make this stuff up.
So while she's waiting for her trial, the police are trying to piece everything together. But her stories were all over the place. First, she said she was an actress, a graduate of this fancy ballet academy. Then she changed it and said she worked at a hotel.
It's like she couldn't keep her lies straight.
Right. But luckily, they had that security footage of her dumping those bags in the pond, and they also saw her carrying a saucepan. They think it had body parts in it, but they never found it.
So they finally give her a psych evaluation in November 2015, right?
Yep. And they decided she was a danger to herself and everyone else. So in December, they moved her to a special psychiatric prison in Kazan.
It seems like a lot of people who knew her had seen this coming, though. Like, they knew something was off about her.
Totally. The transcript mentions that her family, friends, neighbors, they all said she'd brag about becoming famous and causing a stir.
Really? So she wanted notoriety.
It seems like it. And one neighbor who knew her for 15 years said she was obsessed with this other serial killer, Andrei Chikatilo, the Red Ripper, they called him. He was brutal, and he ate his victims.
Cannibalism again. It keeps coming up.
It does. And get this, the same neighbor said they saw Samsonova topless in her window once and thought she had a good body. And years ago, she borrowed a hacksaw from them and never gave it back.
Oh, God, that's creepy. Knowing what we know now, it's also unsettling.
Totally. So it turns out she had been in and out of mental institutions at least 3 times in the previous 15 years. The doctors already thought she might have paranoid schizophrenia. And get this, an old school friend of hers said that Samsonova confessed to killing her mother-in-law years ago and threatened to kill her friend if she told anyone.
Wow. So there's a history of violence going way back. And ultimately, that's what they diagnosed her with, right? Paranoid schizophrenia?
Yep. And they said she couldn't stand trial because of it. So the court decided she had to spend the rest of her life in a mental institution with special monitoring because she was still considered dangerous. I mean, paranoid schizophrenia can make people do some really scary things. Delusions, hallucinations, disordered thinking. It all fits.
It really does. But there are still so many unanswered questions. The police think she might have killed even more people. Some reports say 11, some say 14, including those tenants who just vanished.
It's tough to know for sure. Like the transcript says, without a body, it's hard to prove anything.
Right, like with her husband, Alexei. The police think she killed him and got rid of the body, but they can't prove it.
Exactly. And here's the craziest part. She's still alive. Still living in that high-security psychiatric prison hospital.
So we may never know the whole truth.
It's possible, unless she decides to confess everything, which seems unlikely.
And we might never understand why she did it. It doesn't seem like it was for money. The transcript even suggests that she might have been killing for fun, which is really rare, especially for women who commit murder. They're usually driven by things like passion or desperation.
It's a total mystery. This whole case is a nightmare. We have this seemingly normal old lady who turns out to be a serial killer, writing all this crazy stuff in her diary, then acting totally bonkers in court. It's almost impossible to understand.
It really is. So that was a deep dive into the disturbing story of Tamara Samsonova, the Granny Ripper. We went from this seemingly harmless grandma to this suspected serial killer, with all the awful details from her diaries, the confirmed murder of Valentina, and so many unanswered questions.
It's a crazy story, and it really makes you think what could drive someone to do such horrible things.
Right. I mean, what do you think was going on with her? Was it just mental illness? Or was there something else, something even darker going on, like her diaries hinted at?
It's a tough question. But this case definitely reminds us that you can never really know what's going on inside someone's head. Sometimes the most ordinary-looking people can be hiding the darkest secrets.
Absolutely. And that's something to think about, folks. Until next time, stay safe out there.
And keep the lights on.